ADHD and life expectancy, understanding the risks and navigating a path forward. Introduction. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is often viewed as a childhood condition marked by challenges like trouble focusing, impulsivity, or restlessness. But for many, the story doesn't end in childhood. In fact, ADHD frequently continues into adulthood, shaping how people manage their time, relationships, emotions, and even their health. While awareness around ADHD is growing, a recent study out of the United Kingdom has revealed a startling truth. Adults diagnosed with ADHD are more likely to live significantly shorter lives than those without the condition. This discovery sheds new light on the importance of understanding ADHD, not just as a learning or behavior issue, but as a health condition that needs consistent care and support throughout life. Expanded discussion. Researchers at University College London examined health records from over 9 million adults in the UK, covering the period from the year 2000 to 2019. Within this group, they identified about 30,000 individuals diagnosed with ADHD. They then compared these individuals to over 300,000 people who did not have an ADHD diagnosis, matching them by age, gender, and healthcare location. What they found was deeply concerning. On average, men with ADHD were living almost 7 years less than their peers without the diagnosis. Women with ADH were living nearly 9 years less. These aren't just small differences. They represent years of life lost, often due to preventable causes. This research revealed a complex mix of reasons behind the shortened lifespan. One major factor is the higher rate of mental health challenges among adults with ADHD. Conditions like anxiety and depression are more common, and when left unaddressed, they can lead to emotional pain, social isolation, and sometimes even self-harm or suicidal thinking. People with ADH also have a higher risk of substance use disorders. Whether it's alcohol, nicotine, or other drugs, the temptation to use substances to cope with emotional distress or focus difficulties is real, and it adds another layer of risk to their health over time. Beyond emotional and behavioral health, physical health also plays a role. Adults with ADHD are more likely to face cardiovascular problems like high blood pressure or heart disease. This can be linked to things like inconsistent eating habits, a lack of routine physical activity, poor sleep, and chronic stress, things that often accompany unmanaged ADHD. And when the body is constantly under stress or not getting proper rest, it can lead to inflammation and other conditions that damage the heart and blood vessels over time. Another factor contributing to early death is the tendency toward risky behavior. Adults with ADHD may act impulsively or find it hard to pause and assess danger, which increases their risk of accidents. This includes car crashes, workplace injuries, and even poor decision-making around finances or relationships that lead to longer-term instability. The issue isn't a lack of intelligence or care, it's that without proper support, the ADHD brain often struggles to regulate impulse and judgment in the moment. There's also the reality of socioeconomic strain. ADHD can make academic success more challenging, which often impacts job prospects and earning potential. Many adults with ADHD live with financial stress, lack access to consistent health care, or experience difficulty navigating the healthcare system. Missed appointments, difficulty following through with treatment plans, or the inability to afford medication all increase the health risks over time. When the healthcare system is hard to access and even harder to follow through with, people with ADH can fall through the cracks. But here's the hopeful part. None of this is inevitable. The life expectancy gap exists not because ADHD itself is a life-shortening condition, but because of how poorly it's often understood and supported. With the right care, people with ADHD can absolutely thrive, mentally, emotionally, and physically. The first step is earlier and more accurate diagnosis. Many adults live for years without knowing they have ADHD, attributing their challenges to personality flaws or stress. When clinicians are trained to recognize how ADHD shows up in adults, not just hyperactivity, but chronic disorganization, emotional overwhelm, and difficulty with follow-through, people can finally get the validation and care they need. Once diagnosed, comprehensive treatment makes a world of difference. For many, this includes medication to help regulate focus and impulse control, but treatment also goes far beyond that. Therapy can support emotional regulation and improve coping skills. Coaching and organizational support can help build routines that support health. Nutritional guidance, physical activity plans, and even sleep training can all be part of a personalized approach. It's not about fixing the person, it's about removing the unnecessary obstacles that ADHD puts in their way. It also helps when the environments people live and work in are designed with support in mind. Flexible work hours, permission to use noise-canceling headphones or time-blocking tools, and access to reminders or accountability partners can make the difference between burnout and balance. Support groups, whether in person or online, offer connection, encouragement, and the powerful realization that no one is alone in this. Sometimes, just knowing that other people understand can lift the burden significantly. From a public health perspective, there's a need for broader change. ADHD needs to be taken seriously as a public health issue. That means funding for adult mental health services, training for doctors and therapists, and education campaigns that reduce the stigma and misinformation that still surrounds this condition. It also means policies that recognize that ADHD is not a phase or a choice. It's a neurodevelopmental difference that lasts a lifetime, and it deserves lifelong support. Conclusion. The fact that adults with ADHD are facing shorter lives isn't just a statistic, it's a wake-up call. It reminds us how important it is to see ADHD not as a quirky trait or a childhood disorder, but as a real and lasting condition that affects every aspect of health. It tells us that people with ADHD deserve more support, more compassion, and more opportunities to thrive. And it invites all of us, healthcare providers, educators, employers, friends, and family members, to be part of the solution. With greater awareness, better care, and a commitment to making systems more inclusive, we can help ensure that ADHD does not silently shorten lives, but instead becomes part of a fuller, longer, and more empowered journey of health.